Alright, yeah, and welcome back to some more Magic Duels with the Mono Blue Jace Control subscriber deck. So, I normally don't do this early. I usually wait until the third episode to make changes based on the feedback that you guys give. But we had a lot of feedback actually, and there's been a few things that I thought might improve the deck a little bit, and a lot of things that you guys thought might improve it as well. So I thought instead of doing it at the third episode and having a small sample size as far as seeing how the improvements have improved the deck, I thought I might as well change it this week, because I figured that there'd probably be a lot of changes, small changes of course, to the deck this week. So if we take a look at the deck, there's a few things that have changed. So we used to have 3 copies of Censor in the deck. Censor is a 2 mana instant speed counter unless your opponent pays 1 mana, and it does have this cycling tag on it, which makes it not terrible, completely terrible in the late game. So it's a really, really reasonable counter really early in the game, but as soon as you get to maybe turn 5 or turn 6, you just see that the power level of this card just drops off completely. So what I've opted to do instead is cut these Censors entirely, and we've gone for the Essence Scatters instead. Essence Scatter is, for the same converted mana cost, counters target creature spell. And the reason why I've swapped these out is because I thought about how Censor would be used in this deck, and short of just obviously the cycling, which I don't think you would ever want to put a card like this in the deck just for cycling alone. The reason you'd want this card is to catch those early game spells, and what usual early game spells are a problem for us? Well, it's creatures. So why not just put a counter target creature spell tag in this deck instead? And in the late game, the power level of this card doesn't actually drop off. It should be noted, of course, that in non-creature focused matchups, then Essence Scatter does struggle a little bit, but that's why we've got Baral. We can throw him away anyway, so just the same as the cycle on Censor has the ability to throw it away when it's not useful, we've already got Baral in here to loot away an Essence Scatter if it's not useful and get some different stuff instead. After that, you guys mentioned that the mana base was a thing, and honestly, when I first built the deck, I barely even noticed, because it was just running quite nicely. And I think that's because, I don't think Stainless ever admitted to this, but I'm pretty certain that there is a shuffler weighting system in there that says, essentially, if you've got a low land count, it ups the odds of you getting enough lands in your opening hand. So we had 19 in there, and I've actually swapped it out to 23 islands. And the things I've cut out for that are the Grip of the Royals, because I felt that they were kind of just delaying the inevitable. You know, you were tapping down a creature that was going to stay there for a long time. This is a slow deck that wins in a very slow way, so I didn't think that the grips were going to last us too long in that regard. And plus, we've got Essence Scatters in here to take care of those creatures that we would otherwise be tapping down anyway. And I cut 1 Spell Shrivel as well, because like Censor, this does lose its value in the late game, but it's not so much value as to always be useless. Counter unless you pay 4 can hit quite a lot of the time, so I've not cut it down to less than 3. I still think that this is a really powerful card anyway, nonetheless. After that, we've cut the Niblis of Frost. Niblis of Frost is the 4 mana creature, see if I can find it, that says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery, you tap a creature your opponent controls, and that creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. So this was one of the win conditions, and I've swapped it out for some win conditions that are a little bit more expensive, but I feel like they'll be useful just a lot more of the time. Niblis really gets its value from the prowess trigger, I think, as far as closing out the game is concerned. So it almost forces you to cast things on your turn when you wouldn't want to, in order to get that extra little bit of damage. And the use of it in this particular deck was just for the secondary ability, which I'm not sure if it's worth the value on the Niblis. So instead, we've actually got ourselves a Torrential Gearhook. Really good value for counter spells, counter draw spells, decks like this. So for 4 mana and 2 blue, 5/6 flash artifact creature. When it enters the battlefield, you may cast an instant card from your graveyard without paying its mana cost. If that card will be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. So it allows us to flashback for free any instant spell. So Gear Hulk is a counter spell, it is a draw spell, and it can do a hell of a lot of that kind of thing as well. It could be even a Telling Time, that kind of thing, which is almost a draw spell in its own way. Can only hit instants, but the majority of our deck is already an instant anyway, so it's completely fine as far as I'm concerned. After that, we've got Crush of Tentacles as well. So for 4 and 2 blue, I think this one plays quite nicely into the Surge synergy that we have in the deck. So our card draw of choice is Comparative Analysis with the Surge of 2 and a blue. So I thought it'd be a nice flavour win for the deck to actually have Crush of Tentacles in here. To Surge for as little as 4 mana if you've got Baral on the field. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hands, which really deals with anything that we've allowed to resolve and regretted immediately. So Fevered Visions, creatures that we didn't manage to counter at the time, things like that. Because we don't have a lot of removal while things are on the board, and I think that's what this deck is lacking and kind of needs. So Crush of Tentacles fills that spot. If you actually pay the Surge cost as well for 4 mana, you will replace everything that gets bounced with an 8/8 blue Octopus creature token, which is a win con in its own right as well. If your opponent can't deal with this and you can keep countering any removal spells for it, an 8/8 is very hard to deal with, so I think this is a really solid card. So the final thing that I cut as well was one Pull from Tomorrow. It's just my personal preference. I really do love Pull from Tomorrow. And I do find that this card, if you can do a pull for about 5 or 6, you pretty much just win the game as a control deck. Drawing 5 cards, discarding 1 flooded land or something like that is really good value. So I've actually cut that for the Hieroglyphic Illumination. So I think this gets good value as soon as it gets to about 4 mana. A draw 2, discard 1 is perfectly fine for 4 mana. It's not great, of course, but in the late game, when you're holding up all of your counters and all of your card draw, a nice Pull from Tomorrow instead to completely tap out and draw an entire new hand is awesome. So I've gone for 1 Pull from Tomorrow just as a personal preference. I really do love this card. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into the games. I'll see you there. Alright, we're in, and we got a Baral with a lot of hand fixing. I think this is a perfectly acceptable hand, although one of these would be better as a counter. Essence Scatter maybe. It's lovely to have while you're on the play. Not so much on the draw if you're against aggro, which it looks like we might be. So come on, Essence Scatter. Nope. Well. Do we put Baral out there? Baral doesn't make anything cheaper right now, so I guess no is the answer to that. It also means that we drop our shields and pretty much means that our opponent can play whatever he wants without any issue. It might be vehicles, perhaps. Would like to see a counter off of this Telling Time then. Essence Scatter is a counter. It's not the counter we wanted. Thing in the Ice. Or do I take Pull from Tomorrow? I guess I take Thing in the Ice because we've got plenty of draw in this hand already. So we can go Baral, and then Essence Scatter costs 1, so does Telling Time. So we can draw, or we can counter this turn. If it is vehicles, then there's a chance that Essence Scatter actually doesn't work here. But it did, so we get to loot, which is real nice. Get rid of a really, really destructive creature. One of these has got to go. I think it's the commit. Okay. I was hoping for a land drop there. Didn't quite make it. I guess we'll go for take... If we go take infantry, we can't actually hold up a counter spell, which is very important. If we don't counter anything, which we are going to be countering something, it's so early in the game that we don't do that, then we could Telling Time and Comparative Analysis instead. I guess we'll weigh it up whether or not the creature that they play is something that can get past Thing in the Ice. If it can't, then we'll probably just play Thing on the following turn to block it. Just really need our land drops is the thing. And if we go Telling Time or take inventory on this turn, then we can't actually hold up our counter spell. Diagraph Colossus. Yeah, that's gotta go. We get a loot from this as well, so it's not like we're not drawing at all. Docent. Gonna get rid of you. It's too early in the game for you, I think. Our opponent's just gonna pass. Oh my god, give me the land drops. Well, at least we got a Spell Shrivel, which is almost guaranteed to counter anything that we want. So let's go... I guess we go take infantry on this one. Since we're going to be playing it sorcery speed anyway, we might as well use the sorcery speed card. And there's our land drop, which means we can do a lot of good stuff next turn. Good, good. We do have to pass though, because we need 2 mana for the Spell Shrivel. Which means we can Telling Time afterwards as well. Five mana. Spell Shrivel's getting progressively worse as time goes on. But not worse enough for this to not be relevant. We're not letting you get that Colossus back. And we get to loot our land drop for the turn. I'm going to dump it because we're going to be Telling Timing anyway. And he's got another one. Alright, well, we'll go Telling Time. There's our land drop. We can have Jace to bounce, but that taps us out. We can go, I think we go take inventory on this one. We need to be a little bit of aware of how many threats we're putting to the bottom of our deck though. I think at this stage though it's quite necessary that we do so. That's a memory in the graveyard. Good to know. That'll actually help us get our threats back in the late game. Oh, wow. Not what I wanted to see. So you would cost 2, which means if we draw a counter spell off of you, most of them at least, then we can cast it on his turn. Surge cost, that is. We're tapping out regardless, so... yeah, let's surge out a draw spell. And there's our counter. Okay. Thank God for that. We are drawing a little bit horribly at the moment, but we've got all the lands we'll ever need to loot away. Spell Shrivel's still likely to be relevant, especially if he goes for that Colossus, which is 3 mana. He can't pay for the Shrivel, and we'll exile it so he can't get it back ever again. So there's his land drop. And instead we're going to get rid of From Under the Floorboards. That's a lot of creatures to allow him to have. And we'll get rid of an island. Oh my god. It's Thing in the Ice time then. We've got a commit, so I mean we can get rid of anything. It's almost a hard counter without actually being one. Oops. Get in there. Take him to 16. Pass the turn. What we'll likely do is commit something here, and if we draw badly on the next turn, we're going to have to go memory. Hidden Stockpile. Just going to get rid of. We know he's got a Colossus, but Hidden Stockpile is an annoying engine piece that we can't actually deal with. That's also a really annoying card we can't deal with. We've got a Thing in the Ice to block, so... oh my god, are you kidding me? Alright, it's memory time. Unfortunately, we have to give our opponent a brand new grip of 7 cards, but Do what needs to be done. And there's our counter spells. And a handful of lands again. Ha! This is the worst. Spell Shrivel's really bad now. Unless he taps out for something big here. Which I don't think he's in the business of big things. I think this is probably the top of his curve. Yeah, that's going to have to get Essence scattered. So we can get rid of one of these lands. We can actually bounce all of his zombie tokens as well with the next telling time. Something to be aware of. So dump the land. Collective Defiance. What are you doing? 4 to a creature, 3 to me. Alright, well, telling time. Flip it. Bounce the tokens, bounce Baral. We'll take the take inventory and the take inventory. Mega card draw, and we've got ourselves a beautiful 7-powered monstrosity. Lovely. Land drop, Baral. Swing for 7. While he's tapped out and doesn't have Blessed Alliance. Not that that would matter, because we do have counters. And I guess we're going to go with a take inventory. And we can afford another one. We can still 2 mana Spell Shrivel, 2 mana Surge Analysis. Oh my. Gideon, what is with all these lands? Okay. It's not likely that this is actually going to counter anything, but what it will do is tap him out so he only plays one thing this turn. Read the bones, you can have that. And he's had enough. He has got nothing good in hand. Does he pass or does he play something for me? A Regal Caracal. Getting countered. Go to your exile zone, please. We get to loot one of our 9,000 islands away. I can't believe we managed to win in spite of all of that. We're going to draw as well. Our exact board state. There's another counter spell. Okay, and he's tapped out. We've got Exaxes right here. Beautiful. Oh dear, well that could have gone a completely different direction with the amount of lands that we were drawing there. It would have been pretty easy for our opponent to actually get out from under us, but we kept getting the occasional lucky draw essentially. But, I mean, we flooded the crap out of our hand. The amount of lands we went through that game is just unreal. It's sickening, in fact. Anyway, we won, so that's all that matters. Let's go to another game. Okay, we're in, and this hand is just plain not keepable, I don't think. It's got no counters, nothing really going on immediately. This is much of the same, but it does have a Jace. Yeah, I think we'll take it. We do have an extra draw before I really write this hand off as being horrible, but we'll see. Depends on what colour our opponent's playing as well. Red is not great. Essence scatter, please. Oh boy. Okay, well, let's pretend to hold up a counter even though we don't have one and just go for the telling time. I think that'll allow us to guarantee our next hand is a little bit better, unlike the take inventory, because we do kind of need our land drop, but we also need a counter at the same time. Our opponent is going to draw, so we shall draw in kind. Give me a land and a counter. That's an expensive counter, but a counter nonetheless, so I'll take it. If we're lucky, our opponent continues to durdle around with his take inventories. Okay, so we're not countering anything. we're not doing anything on his turn, so it's whether or not we want to Jace, which I don't think is necessarily a good idea, because he could just burn it away with a shock, magma spray, fiery temper, whatever. We do have a backup Jace though, so that is something to consider. And take inventory is not going to draw us into anything we can use either. It is just going to cantrip. So maybe we actually do go Jace. Get him going, I guess. There's not really much else we can do with this hand, I don't think. If he's got burn, he's got burn. It's not the end of the world, although it will be a bit of a sad time for us. Oh boy. Oh boy. That's not good. A Baral, eh? I'm gonna loot with Jace first, because it will give us some crucial information, like whether or not we'll get a land drop. Okay, I'm gonna drop a take inventory, because this is gonna now draw us 2 cards, which is fine. Do I counter? The thing is, Chandra untaps on a cast, so that's something to be aware of. I think we just Baral. This Chandra's going to be real bad for us, though. And we can't use this on his turn, so I'm just going to go take inventory. Hopefully we get an Essence Scatter. Hey, there you go. Alright. Bit of a YOLO play there. But these are going to be quite useful. Creatures are where we suffer the most. Huh. Now then, we know he's probably got a red spell. Whether or not it's a red creature or not is another thing. If it's a burn spell, then he could use it on our Baral anyway and kill it. He's going to untap, and then he's going to tap again with a single spell, flipping it. At least this way, we negate the 2 damage that he would get from combat damage. That might be his best way of flipping Chandra right now. Floating the Ether Hub. A Fevered Visions. Untaps Chandra. That is really bad for us. Really bad. And then he's going to tap to ping us. Yeah, she still did the damage, unfortunately. And he's going to minus on our Jace. Okay. We're in a real bad spot now, though, because Fever Visions is awful. That's like control killer #1 right there. Sadly, we don't have a way of killing Chandra. But we're going to have to go in with Baral here. Commit to Memory is pretty much what Fevered Visions... Fevered Visions has got Commit to Memory in its future, hopefully. I'm hoping he draws us into it, but until then we're going to take damage every single turn. Because we need card advantage. That is where we really do well in this game. And we're not allowed it with Fevered Visions. But unfortunately, we do have to dig for it. Another one. You can absolutely bugger off. Go away. Not a chance. Let's loot. Drop an island. We've got an Essence Scatter. Grip of the Royal. Okay, well, I'm just going to Surge, draw. Grip of the Royal means nothing to us, pretty much. Thing in the Ice. Could be good enough. So we can Thing and still hold up 2 counters. Which we are going to do. We do take some damage though. Down to 13. It's still possible we get out from under this Fevered Visions just without even bouncing it off the board, because if Thing in the Ice can flip, we've got 7 power on the board ready to go. That's 3 turns worth of attacking and countering that we have to pull out. His own Thing in the Ice, we will Essence Scatter, because it will not bounce when Thing in the Ice flips. Brutal Expulsion. Well, how about... Ooh, hang on. Return target spell or creature to its owner's hand. Deal 2 damage to target creature or planeswalker. Ah, just counter it. I don't think we can redirect all of that, so... just counter. Okay, loot a land away. Loot a land away. We can flip Thing in the Ice next turn, kill Chandra. Broken Concentration. Okay, land drop. Let's go take inventory. Draw some cards. Oh, that's pretty good. Do that again then. We're gonna have to replay Baral. Pay 1, replay Baral. We got 3 mana up and we can play any of our counter spells. Plus an Essence Scatter. Yeah, that's fine. So Baral flip, Thing in the Ice flips. We get our 7 power monstrosity. Draw 19,000 cards. So, we need 3 turns to win. So can he win in 3 turns? That's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So yeah, we are going to have to kill Chandra. In hindsight, I should have actually redirected all of that Brutal Expulsion. Just bounced Baral, killed Chandra, then I would be pointing the Thing in the Ice at him instead. It was a mistake on my part. We don't need the Docent, so let's get rid of you. Get rid of our card draw. Get rid of our second Baral. So pretty much just get rid of anything that upsets our board state in any way. Oath of Chandra. Let's Broken Concentration that. Say yes, loot away a land. We've looted away a land every single time, I believe. We've got an Essence Scatter for Jace. Loot away Jace. More draw. Just gonna get rid of... Let's get rid of the land at this point. Cathartic Reunion. Okay, Disciple of the Ring and a Mountain, but no burn for us. Good. And he draws an extra card. There's a commit. That's really good. I think that seals the deal. We are just going to swing. We'll keep taking the Fevered Visions damage until it doesn't suit us anymore. Because the more card draw, the better for us. Unfortunately, the damage, not so good for us. We need to make sure we're not in Exquisite Firecraft range as well. Because we cannot counter that. So anything that would take us to 4, we can't allow. Yes, you can have that. Okay, next. Yep, you can have that. And your next thing's going to get countered because we know you can't pay for it. He's just going to pass. Okay, we are going to... Telling time. Take a commit. And a land. And I'm going to commit your Fevered Visions. We win in a counter war. Our opponent goes to discard a Fiery Temper. At us, we will Spell Shrivel it. Counter unless you pay 4. Loot again. Get rid of the land. Get another land. I'm glad we've drawn it in this particular order. So you're our counterspell, essentially. Okay, we're going to go to combat first. He's got a Grip of the Royal. We've got a Spell Shrivel. We get to loot a counter. Get rid of Jace. Swing with everything. We've got the game next turn. It's going to cost us 3 for the commit, 2 for the Broken Concentration. So we've got 2 counters open. At this point, it's anything that kills us or anything that gets rid of our Awoken Horror. Everything else is fair game. Talent of the Telepath. What does he hit in our deck? He doesn't hit commit, which would bounce our stuff. He hits loads and loads and loads of counters and card draw. So yeah, you can have that. You're not going to hit anything good as far as I'm concerned. Although it did get us pretty close to milled. I suppose he could hit... Nah, he hits nothing. Good. Could have hit, what's some jigger? Crush of Tentacles. Storm Chaser Mage. We will commit that, knowing full well his last spell is probably pretty much going to tap him out. And we'll counter that. And now he's open to lethal damage, and that's game. Continue playing. Do I want to loot? I just want to find out if we continue hitting lands with Baral. We do. We've hit a land pretty much every single time, I think. Wow. Well, and we drew into more lands. Okay, Baral saved the day. Quite clearly. Tell you what, Baral, you can get in there, knowing full well you saved this game. You saved the crap out of it. Alright, not too bad. Yeah, I really think that the Essence Scatters in this deck are doing a hell of a lot of work. On the draw, if you're against aggro, they're of course a little less effective because most aggro decks have a turn 2 creature that they can play. But having an Essence Scatter available if that's not the case, things like the Hanway Garrisons and things like that are just really good to counter and get out of the way, because once they're down, it is the worst thing in the world, and if you don't have a counter ready for them, then the game is pretty much just over. So I'm enjoying the cheaper counters here. They are a little bit more conditional, of course. I did get rid of Censors because they kind of had this Spell Shrivel issue where they're really bad in the late game, but they're really, really bad in the late game. Where's my Spell Shrivels? Yeah, Censors just significantly worse in the late game, I would say, but they can of course be cycled away. But I like the way that the deck is at the moment. I think it was alright before. I think it's alright now. But I don't know. I'll let you guys decide, is it an improvement or not? Let me know in the comments section below. As always, be sure to like and subscribe as well if you did enjoy the episode. And don't forget to hit that little bell icon as well, right next to the subscription button, and that'll give you notifications when I release new videos. I do hope you've enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.